Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to a brand new week of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are very glad to have our guest, Lance Dorrel, back. Remember last week when I had the technical difficulties, we rescheduled him. So that's who we're having on tonight. And he's going to be talking about First Nations peoples and their connections to both UFOs, alien contact, and cryptids like Bigfoot and more. We're in for a great show. But first, we have to say hello to each and every one of you, including... where are we here? Race fan in the gold medal position. T-Bone with a silver. Tyler 420 taking home a bronze medal tonight. Kitty Cattywhack, how are you? As we kick off roll call, Blackthorn is here. Blackthorn will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Moving on down. Up next, we say hello to Luscious Jewels, Lisa Smith, Robert Lamoth. Thank you for coming on in. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you can't talk monsters and aliens without being lubed up. So Mel is lubing us up as we speak. Thunderhead, how are you tonight? Good to see you. Necessary Dialogue at Stargazer. Nice to have you guys in the chat room. Gear Jammers, nice to see you, my friend, as we continue on with our roll call here. Area 51 is here. Area 51 will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. We continue our scroll, and up next we have Mark Wolf. Nice to see you. And Kathy Evans. Nice to have you here. All right, let's continue on our roll call here. And we scroll on down to Thomas Rock. Nice to see you. JSCO and Honest Content. Thanks for coming on in. Paramarv is here. Oh, it's Kitty Cattywhack's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Kitty Cattywhack. Happy birthday to you. Thank you for your support, my dear. I hope you have a great birthday. Escape from Blue Jersey. How are you? J Truth, nice to have you here. Hi there, Undead Jed and Terry Mills. How you doing? Louise, nice to see you. Pam Harris as well. Thank you for coming on in. Number 65 in your program tonight, starting on defense from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Walter Kochabinski, how you doing? Nice to have you here. Doubleday, nice to see you as we continue on with our roll call. And who is next on our list? It's the Goblin, everybody, and the Ferret. Look at that. Would you look at that? Dunzel, how are you tonight? As we scroll on down. And up next, we say hello to Gory Tiger. It's been a while. Nice to have you here. Mr. Cowley, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. The lovely, the talented, and the gorgeous Kira. I love it when you're here. I do. That just makes the day better. Doc from Wyoming, thanks for coming on in. And T-Bone, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Jeremy, how you doing? Thanks for joining us tonight as we scroll on down on our roll call and say hello to Fap Nuts and Chris Irvin. Good to have you both here. And Babylon Row, is nice to see you as we scroll on down on our roll call. And who do we have next? Well, let's just continue scrolling. And we'll scroll a little bit more. And let's get the radio side going here, guys. Hold on one second. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're so glad to have you here as we have Lance Dorrel on the show to talk about First Nations, monsters, legends, and ET contact. It's going to be a great show coming up here momentarily. We're just in roll call on our YouTube side. We're wrapping that up here pretty quickly as we are officially caught up, and we are glad to get ready for tonight's show. I want to remind all of you the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very much. Sarah in Hawks and Hora, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithms when it comes to YouTube and our podcast side. So don't forget to give us a like, a follow, and throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin knows. We're together, my friends. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Caribou Con. Get your tickets right now for Caribou Con, September 18th through 20th. Come join us in the heart of British Columbia for Caribou Con. CaribouCon.com is where you get your tickets. We're going to deal into the First Nations aspect of UFOs, alien contact, monsters like Bigfoot and Dogman, paranormal stories. Our good friend Lance Dorrel is here. He is going to bring all of this great information to us. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will join us for another creepy story. We'll follow that up with Grant Baker. He will be here for the UFO report right after that. So let's hop right to it, shall we? Lance J. Dorrel is a historian, ethnographer, and author from Missouri whose work bridges Native American history, let me just bring that back up, oral tradition, and unexplained phenomena. For more than 2 decades, Lance's research he has researched the Battle of Little Bighorn, traveled throughout the United States, especially the American West, to build lasting relationships with Cheyenne, Lakota, Crow, Arapaho, and I know I butchered that. I'm so sorry. And First Nations communities. Rather than relying solely on written historical record, Lance has spent years listening to the oral studies preserved by Indigenous elders and comparing those accounts with conventional historical sources, leading to big stories that they don't tell just anybody. No, this is about UFOs. This is about First Nations contact, ET contact, star people, which they call them, Bigfoot, Dogman, little people, and many other cryptids and creatures all around. Lance Dorrel, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
Dave, I'm doing well, and thanks for having me.
And we want to say thank you for joining us. And We tried to get you on last week. We had some issues within the studio, and you were gracious enough to return this week for another great interview. And thank you so much for being here tonight. How did you get started on this journey?
You know, I was just very, very fortunate that growing up in Northwest Missouri, I had parents who encouraged my brothers and my sister and I to read more, chase our dreams and passions. And then that just led to trips to the local library, to the university library in our little hometown, coupled with, I had two uncles who were outdoorsmen, would take my brothers and I to our farm, taught us about rock hunting. And in turn, we also sat around the bonfire a lot of nights on the river, just talking. But it was always a Native American history lesson somewhere in the story, so to speak. Both of my uncles were voracious readers, educated. One of my uncles had actually done several archaeological digs across Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, the Dakotas. And so I was smitten at that time. And then, of course, by the late 70s, for some reason, Dave, I just became absolutely mesmerized, and you might say obsessed, with the Battle of the Little Bighorn. So that's kind of a nutshell answer right there.
How did you go from that to trying to figure out Bigfoot, dogmen, UFOs, aliens, and all of the other great legends that are there?
So you know, Dave, I want to be very clear here that was never my intention. You know, while sure, growing up in the 70s and 80s, I read everything that I could get my hands on, obviously pre-internet, you know, brought up on Leonard Nimoy in search of those types of shows when you could get your hands on it. But, and read everything I could on Bigfoot, UFOs, again, from our local library. There was a university in town. Parents were really cool about trying to help us find books at garage sales or whatever. But I was just obsessed by the Little Bighorn. And lucky enough, in the 80s, my mom and dad would take us out west on trips. And so that started my whole journey. And then in the early 2000s, I was starting to make some contact with Native American people, mainly Lakota people of western South Dakota at Pine Ridge and Rosebud and even Cheyenne reservations. Okay. And from there, I met several elders through the course of my job when I was out there working. And at that time, then, these elders helped me understand that I needed to visit with the tribal historic preservation offices on the reservations. And so I was able to do that when time allowed. And so that just snowballed. And then meeting the TPO officers, two of those men I'm still good friends with to this day, they introduced me to many, many elders across these reservations that knew I was interested in the Little Bighorn, you know, history's greatest mystery, Custer's last stand, right? So they taught me to meet these elders. They taught me about protocol, procedures to ask. And of course, you know, we're in a much different time frame than these first ethnographers that were coming around in the late 1800s, right? So I just started doing everything I could to visit with these people, Dave. Whenever I had free time or I could get out west, I would do that. And of course, I was always going to the Little Bighorn battlefield, usually around the anniversary of the battle in June. And, you know, I'd go up there, Dave, and spend a week with historians and authors, and all kinds of characters would come around the battlefield that week of the anniversary in late June. But I always left there feeling a little bit unfulfilled, could never get those answers that I was looking for, right? And it wasn't until I met 4 Cheyenne elders, 2 are still with us, 2 are gone, that things really started to change for me on this journey. And those men taught me again about procedures and protocol. And then they introduced me to a man named Donovan Taylor, who's a Cheyenne dog soldier, and he's a historian. And Donovan and I just set out to try to save what oral history pertaining to the Battle of the Little Bighorn we could get our hands on if people would visit with us. Okay. And so what happened there, Dave, is coupled with all the Lakota people, and I knew Dakota people up in up in South Dakota, North Dakota, and even up into Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Donovan and I just set out to try to save this history. And then we worked on it, Dave, for 6 years. And that's when things, you might say, kind of took a turn that I did not expect. And I started running into all of this hidden history, bringing me into the world of cryptids. Okay. And again, I wasn't on this journey, Dave. I'm telling you, man, I was so laser focused on the Little Bighorn. I was doing everything I could to meet people. We started meeting people up in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. And of course, we're talking then eventually in the States, we're talking Blackfoot, Grovant, Arapaho, of course, the Cheyenne people, Lakota, Dakota, and it just snowballed on us. Donovan and I could not keep up, Dave. And so that required more time to get out west and go to the reservations and go to a lot of these spots with people. And it wasn't until then that I started stepping into this world of what the world calls cryptids and started finding all of this backstory about the Little Bighorn. And it took me into the world of what you might call star people. Okay. So that's a long answer to your question. I'm just trying to give people an accurate understanding of my background, how it happened.
Here's one of the things that I have learned, because I live in a First Nations community as well. And many a time every week, I will get the opportunity to talk to these wonderful, wonderful people from all different nations around our area. There are multiple of them. But the one thing that I have learned is it's very, very difficult to get the elders to talk about the stories, the legends, especially when it comes to creatures that should not exist under today's manufactured societies, such as aliens, UFOs, star people, lizard people, Bigfoot, dogmen, you name the creatures. And yet there is reports that have been written everywhere from hieroglyphics to written code and letters that show that they have been dealing with these creatures for thousands of years.
Well, you got that right, in my humble opinion. And all I can tell you, Dave, is with my journey is I feel like I happened upon it organically because, again, I wasn't asking people about this type of stuff. I was just trying to meet people through the proper protocol and procedures to ask for this information pertaining to either their band or tribe or their family's history to the Little Bighorn. Okay. And all of a sudden, things really changed for me when a few of the elders up in South Dakota started sharing information with me about what happened after the Battle of the Little Bighorn. And this is why it's important that this message gets out. And I just want the listeners to understand, and you would understand, Dave, that what I'm going to share here is not in the written record. So I hope people can really pay attention to this because it's paramount that folks understand what's going on because of possible history that may happen later on down the road with all of us. And what I'm trying to articulate there is that after the Battle of the Little Bighorn, I was told that a substantial group of Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Lakota people, namely people from the Cheyenne River Reservation, which would be Minicoju, Stanzark's people, went back to a certain area. And this is a very big area I'm talking about, okay? But to give the reader and listener some kind of context, it would be near what the white world knows as Devil's Tower. Okay? Now, you can't make this up, okay? I mean, because here we have Steven Spielberg in 1977 filming the ending of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, as everybody knows, right?
Yes.
And so I was like, what? And again, I got to be honest with you, Dave. I was not grasping this at the start because I had so much information coming at us about the Little Bighorn. It was extremely hard to get it recorded and to go see people, because I'm living in Missouri. Donovan's in Montana. We're trying to work as best we can. We had so many people helping because they wanted the true story of the Little Bighorn put out. Because what the standard narrative about the Little Bighorn is that it's mainly a Lakota affair. There's several Cheyennes fighting there, and there's only a handful of Arapaho. Dave, I'm telling you, that cannot be further from the truth. In truth, there's many, many more Algonquin people there than the historical record is led to believe. I said that wrong. What I'm trying to articulate there is the historical record verifies that. It's the present day historians and ethnographers have bypassed that and ignored that. And what I'm saying to you is that there are Blackfoot people there, there are Grovant people there, there are Cree people there, and there are Ojibwa people there, okay? And there are many, many more Arapaho and Cheyenne there as well. And there's Blackfoot, if I didn't say Blackfoot, okay? And these people are there, okay? Now, if a person who's a skeptic wants to question that, prove me wrong, but read the book. It's out there, because what I'm telling you is all that information, Dave, is in the historical record. We went back and found it. And if a person wants to say I'm cherry picking, that's fine. But the point of it is this stuff has been said to ethnographers since the battle got over, but it's been completely ignored, right? Another part of that story is that many of these tribes that are there, Dave, that are completely ignored, they had their sacred covenants there. And so what was understanding at the Little Bighorn is that this was an ancient alliance that went back so far, generational trauma and memory, okay?
Okay.
Now, remember I was telling you about these people telling me about a group of them went back to this area around Devil's Tower?
Yes.
That's where this started. This is where this ancient alliance starts. And I had no idea about any of this, okay? And it wasn't until the late Garver Goodplume Jr. told me and would go with me there that he made me understand what was going on here. And he's the guy that started helping me, the elder who started talking about this is where these people went. And this goes back so far, okay? And I said, eventually Garver said, this was an ancient meeting area when all of the people on Turtle Island were one people. And I'm just like dumbfounded, okay? And as Western historians, we always want to run back and look for a book that it's put in, right? We want to verify it. See, we got this mentality that we cannot accept something if we haven't read it before, right?
Correct.
So this is the world I'm stepping into, okay? And eventually Garvard starts to see people at Pine Ridge, Cheyenne River, and Rosebud. And these people we'd talk about Little Bighorn, and then we started talking about this ancient alliance and this meeting place and what went on there. And I'll do my best to give it some context, but it's even at times it's hard for me at times to articulate it, but it went a little bit like this, okay? And I just want the reader and the listener to imagine this as I try to explain it as it's told to me, okay? And so I want you to imagine back to a time that there's probably been a couple of cataclysmic events on this continent, all right, on this planet, right? There's been a great flood, okay? And Dave, every tribe has those stories. You know that, right?
Yes.
You know that. They all talk about a great flood, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what else do they say? What do the tribes say? They say they came from the stars. and that they had to go underground when they got here, some of them, right? To avoid the weather and the extreme climate change as the poles were shifting and things like this. So as mankind is developing from some kind of a conscious, sentient, possibly plasmoid being, and I say plasma because many of these elders talked about plasma. Now, Dave, you know, in the current disclosure movement, right? Who else talked about plasma?
Yeah.
David Grush.
David Grush,
Grush, right? Okay. So that's the world I'm in way back in 212, 214. And they said that eventually, as human beings are infused with more and more abilities, they start to branch out, get out of the caves, get out of the mountains. And when they do that, they are woefully inadequate to encounter what is here. And what is here is what you might call monsters, dinosaurs. And they also said to me that the proverbial gray, and they didn't say a gray alien, they said the grays are here. And these monsters, dinosaurs, grays, other worldly beings that were brought here by star people. And I get this may sound like a bridge a little too far for people, but that's just the way it is, because that's the story that I was told to me, and that's what I'm just articulating to two friends, okay? And these human beings are being destroyed by the droves, okay? So eventually the Creator and his spirit beings, and they said there were 7 of them, and 7 is a very significant number in this equation, okay?
Okay.
They came down in this area somewhere over there by Devil's Tower, okay? And they gathered these feeble two-legged human beings, brought them together, and gave them more, what you might call an infusion, better abilities, spirituality, a higher form of consciousness. Gave them abilities that might sound supernatural to us today, but were common to certain people. And that could be anywhere from telepathic communication to the ability to remote view to possibly shapeshift, possibly even fly themselves. And, you know, I'm just, Dave, I'm hearing this same story from multiple people from different tribes who speak different linguistic stocks. These are people who are Algonquin speakers. These are Siouan speakers. These are Dene speakers, okay? So it's not like I'm just getting this from one community. It's not like this is just one group of people. You follow me? This
Gotcha.
is a big, different set of people who don't even know I'm talking to these people, okay? So I'm trying to give the listener and you some context behind this. And eventually, the two-legged human beings are able to cope and battle these monsters. But these other star people see this, and so they start upping their game, and they ratchet up these attacks on them. So to speak. Peter then has to do more with his spirit beings, and he starts to send down some help to these people, okay? One of those forms of help that's very prevalent in Algonquin literature, and Algonquins, again, would be people that are up in your neck of the woods, Cree, Ojibwe, then we got Cheyenne, Arapaho, people around the Great Lakes, Blackfoot. If I'm leaving anybody out, I apologize. Grovant. I think you get the picture, okay? Kickapoo, those people. And Mishambo, or Nanabozo, comes, and he's even considered a trickster.
Hold that thought. I'm going to get you to hold that thought,
Okay.
Lance, because we are going to go to break here. at the bottom of the hour. Lance Dorrel, author, researcher, looking into the connection of First Nations people with cryptids like Bigfoot, Dogman, little people, aliens, paranormal, ghosts, and spirits. It's going to be a good one. This is Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear. Remember, our audience can still hear us.
Gotcha.
No problem. No problem. Yeah, everybody.
Dave, I hope I'm able to articulate this, man. Sometimes it's really hard to put this together.
You're doing great. You're doing great. Claudette, how you doing? Nice to see you. And just to update everybody on the forest fire situation up here, the fire north of me is now fully under control. That was about a 45 minute drive north of me. So quite a distance away. The fire south of me, which is the big one, is still out of control, but it's about 45 kilometers or about, 30 miles. Let's go kilometers to miles. So if I go 45 kilometers, it's about 28 miles, okay, south of me. Not too worried about that. My town is not on evacuation alert. It is not on evacuation order. South of me is about that 28 to 30 mile mark. It will not affect Caribou Con at all because remember, these are not forest fires. These are bureaucracy fires that always seem to end after the Labor Day long weekend. So yes, we are going through with Caribou Con. There is no plan to cancel anything. Nothing is in danger in this area. So we just want to clarify that. Yes, you should still all get tickets for Caribou Con. I'm looking at you, T-Bone. I'm looking at you, Kira. You got to get up here for it. It's going to be a great event. So make sure that you're A-okay. And by the way, to update everybody, this is day 2 in a row without any forest fire smoke here. So I'm happy about that. Very happy about that. So it's nice to breathe and open a window. So I just want to update everybody on that. So that way everybody kind of knows what's going on. And Spokane is getting hit really hard. Vernon and Kelowna just fired up this weekend, pun intended. That's not a good thing going on there. My sister was just evacuated from her house. So, but we're good. Everything is good up here. And if shit does hit the fan, well, then it does. It does. I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. I can see you too, Dave. Yeah. Thank you, Candace. I hope you can because I'm on video. We can't see Lance though. Lance is on the road, so that's why we're doing it via the phone tonight with him. And which reminds me, stupid charger is not working here. 1 second, Lance. All right, let's see now. I got to get a new phone. My charger is being really finicky. Yeah. It just wants to be a jerk. Come on. There we go. There we go. Now we're rolling. No, we're not. Yes, we are. There we go. No, we're not. Oh, this phone is starting to piss me off. I know I need an upgrade. Come on, you silly goose. There we go. No, you don't want to charge tonight? Funny, right before the show, it was charging fine. All right. There Go like this. Gonna stay. Yes, you are. All right, we're good. We're good. You can still hear me okay?
I'm good.
All right, perfect. Fish, how you doing? Nice to see you in the chat room. Let's see here. Anybody else? Anybody else? Fap in the chat room, you're still highly unattractive. Just wanted to make that very, very clear. Questions in hour 2 for Lance, everybody. Right. Here is the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are proud to have you here as we have Lance Dorrel on the line, hanging out with us, talking about First Nation connections with everything from little people to cryptids to ghosts and the star people. But before we bring them back in, we want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Let's bring in author and researcher Lance Dorrel coming at us tonight about his research into everything to do with the subjects that we love, along with their connection to First Nation people. Lance, welcome back.
Hey, Dave. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for having me back.
In the first half hour, you went through a real set of research that you've done on Little Bighorn. You know, I want to get into, as you started to learn more from the elders from all different nations, talking about the star people. We recognize them as extraterrestrials, but most First Nations that I have talked to do call them star people. How did that conversation come about?
So, two things happened, and it's kind of where we left off just a few minutes ago.
Sure.
So, let me go back real quick. When I was trying to explain about mankind developing after this cataclysmic event, it wasn't until then that anything on my radar had been told to me about the spirit world, things like this. Okay. Again, I'm just trying to understand a little, and I'm been brought into this about where these people went after the battle. I could not wrap my mind around it, and then I'm starting to get this backstory. And the backstory had to do with mankind developing as a conscious, sentient, plasmoid type of a being, but I did not explain that well.
Okay.
Water.
Your phone is Lance, your phone is cutting out. I don't know if you've moved areas, but your phone is starting to cut out.
Can you hear me now, my man?
We got you.
Okay. Again, water is paramount to some of this history. Water is conscious, so to speak. Now, that's not metaphorically speaking. It's a physically ability that, again, I'm just following this story. And when you look at this story about people and water, Dave, every tribe has has history to this water story. Okay.
Okay.
And again, what does that got to do with the current state of disclosure and affairs? Well, I'll tell you what it's got to do with it. Why don't you just, look at what Richard Dolan has uncovered. When we talk about UFOs, we talk about USOs now, right? We talk about all of these things coming out of the water. To me, it's a very fascinating correlation. I don't believe that's a coincidence. Okay. So, but anyway, going back, the two-leggeds are suffering again on this planet. Has sent his helpers down to help these two-leggeds. And these beings, one of them is known as Mishambo or Nanabozo, and he's a giant hare, Hare. Okay. And people must keep an open mind to this. Okay. Just like I had to learn to be open-minded to this, because these tribes have this. And this Mishambo, the giant hare, he and his brother, the wolf, and they engage in mortal combat, so to speak, with these monsters, these dinosaurs, these proverbial gray beings that are indigenous here. But these other things have been brought here by the star people to destroy mankind. This is a common story across these tribes. And when the giant wolf is killed in mortal combat, Mishambo, the hare, is beside himself. He is so distraught, Dave, that the star people have to bring him back into getting back in the game, right?
Okay.
So they send him the spirit lodge, the medicine lodge. Now the medicine lodge, they in your neck of the woods. And this
Lance, I'm going to get you to repeat that because your signal is kind of cutting out again.
So the medicine lodge is a place for Mishambo to go and rejuvenate himself, but it's also a place where he can communicate with the star people. And if people want to equate star people with aliens, that's fine. Okay. Again, I'm just trying to bring people along on my journey as it was taught to me. So here is a way for this person, this being, to communicate to the star people. The medicine lodge, Dave, will become a prevalent way for Native and First Nations people to continue that tradition and continue that method still to this day to communicate with the star people. Okay. So this goes back so far, and this method, it takes planes centuries later. This medicine lodge will morph into the sweat lodge. Okay. So this part of that. What's this got to do with this area around Devil's Tower? Well, these people were telling me this history. All of these different speakers, Algonquin, Dene, Siouan, Dave, they all had the same stories. Like I said earlier, their stories had to do with this area. This stuff has never been written down. It's not recorded in history. Okay? They had kept this stuff pristine because it was here that they were able to get help from the star people to battle other star people. Okay? And I'm just like mesmerized now. I mean, I'm just like, what's the chances of this all correlating with the Little Bighorn, right? So I'm trying to make sense of it. I've got Arapaho people telling me this piece. I got Cheyenne. I've got Lakota. I got Dakota. I've got Cree. I got Ojibwa. I mean, it's nuts. And as dating enough, then I start catching pieces to the rest of it. And that has to do with, as mankind developed and these native people are able to drive out these dinosaur, grays, and even lizard people. They called some of these people lizard people, okay? I've never been able to accurately get an exact reading on who those lizard people, but they said they drove them back underground, okay? These native people, they become so big, so numerous, that they have to start breaking up as they're traversing the basically the United States from basically Wyoming all the way to the eastern seaboard. And during this time, they start to have internal conflict, okay? Over resources. Well, this is where the story even becomes more fascinating for people like us and your listeners, and that is they start to argue, they start to have warfare amongst themselves, linguistic stocks start to develop, okay? And the creator and his star beings reappear and tell them they're not supposed to be acting like this. Not do this, save mankind for them to act so foolishly and to treat their women bad, their children bad, and so forth. And the native people at this time were mistreating the horse, and they were in the soul. That's very, very important if you want to have a good next, to speak. Okay, you need to show reverence for the four-leggeds who sacrificed their bodies for you. Well, I had been told.
Let me just cut you off right there. What do you mean by the four-leggeds?
The four-leggeds. I'm talking about like the buffalo, the horse.
Okay.
Creatures like that. But before time, there were four-legged creatures, they said, that were destroying mankind, okay? And they said. And these giants were cannibalistic, and they were feeding on the people. And for people who were Siouan speakers of the Great Plains, they'll understand this part of it. The creator sent down Tokahei, and he's a Siouan mythological hero who, the minute he gets here, somewhere over there west of the Black Hills, he engages in mortal combat and is fighting these giants who are just slaughtering people. Just think of Southwest South Dakota and Northwest Nebraska. So these tribes all have pretty much the same story, and then they survive this stuff. They start to flourish. They're growing, but they have internal conflict. And so, for whatever the reason, this is where the older people, the knowledge, the wisdom keepers make an appearance, as it's told to me. Now, I know these wisdom keepers and knowledge keepers have been around for centuries. These wisdom keepers are the white world and what everybody's infatuated with today that you would call Sasquatch or Bigfoot, okay?
Okay.
Again, Dave, I wasn't looking for this. I'm just trying to understand what's going on, and then this just is Zam. I mean, I'm like, what the hell? You know, I mean, I was just like, wow. You know, so now I've got this to contend with, this part of this journey. Now I got this. Here's another column to try to make sense of, right? And it was so mesmerizing and fascinating. And so when you understand that these people were called the forest people, Big Brother, every tribe had stories and history with these people. You know that, of course.
Yes.
And it's sometimes it's a precarious relationship. Sometimes there's a lot. These people would come to ceremony, be in ceremony, be part of some treaties, so to speak, with the people. Other times it might not be a good interaction, right? But for the most part, it was good, as I'm led to believe. And so these people, these forest people, were feeding all these tribes, Dave, and brought them back to this area near Devil's Tower to get back. Is one again, because believe it or not, there's more enemies now on this continent. And the history told to me was there were now 3 other enemies who had appeared on this continent. One of those enemies, they said, came from the south. And what I have been able to research and understand with the help of literally hundreds of elders and First Nations elders is that these southern enemies were people from the Caribbean, Mesoamerica, maybe even or even from Pacific Islands. Okay, and for the story's sake, they were called the Southerners, and so the people who were here were the Northerners, or the Eagle Nation, because this was the land of the Eagle Nation. Okay, there was also a group of people here that they were rather large, very warlike, did not like Native people. They had blonde, red, and black hair, and they wore beards. Now, my first inkling is to think, is that a Viking? I always try to keep a very open mind and not pigeonhole myself, okay? And then the third group has been lost to history. Myself and a large group of Native American people and First Nations people have been working together for a number of years to visit with people, and we get together and we meet, trying to bring this stuff out, okay? Trying to figure out what we're talking about. But we've never been able to find that, okay? And so you have these knowledge and wisdom keepers, which are, of course, what the world calls Bigfoot, bringing the people back here to battle, to get them all as allies again, to battle these three other groups that have showed up here, right? And eventually they are able to do that, and they form an alliance. And then eventually they call a truce. They have a truce with these Southern people. And Dave, guess where this truce is called? And we've only learned in the last few years. Guess where that was ratified, you might speak, or guess where this truce is put in place?
I'm going to assume Devil's Tower.
Yes. Now, again, we're not talking right at Devil's Tower, but in that area, okay? So, I mean, what's the chances of it? No, I mean, whether a person wants to listen, to accept this, or even possibly think of this, that's their journey. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just telling you what's been told to me. And I went and looked as best I could in the historical record. 94%, 95% of this is not there. There are snippets of it out there. But these different tribes, different bands, different speaking people all have this history, and they still have it. So this truce is called between the Northern and Southerners. I'm not sure what really happened with the black-haired, blonde-haired, red-haired people, but what we kind of have an idea is that it was made to understand, you stay over here, we're going to stay here. If we have conflict, it's going to get ugly. Again, we don't know who the third group is. Okay, so centuries and centuries go on, and eventually then the Native people become so big and so numerous that they continue to split up, and they evolve into tribes, and linguistic stocks develop. And the story that was told to me is that once the coming of the white man came, they could not get back together because they were so numerous and big, okay? There was a lot of interaction with the star people that was not good, and it's not been good since then. And let your mind run with that, however a person can imagine that. But we've all heard enough encounters of people who've possibly been abducted. Other interactions, these tribes have stories that people have ignored for centuries, okay? And you can see that this pattern has developed. And so what we get told is that if the red and brown races are ever to return as the medicinal people again, there had to be a reunification of the northern and southern people so they could lead mankind into these troubling times, okay? So that's a pretty big and broad snapshot of what we learned on this journey, myself and these. And this is what we're trying to just articulate to the rest of the world, so to speak, just as part of it, So there might be some chance to reunify for these troubling times.
Lance Dorrel is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have him till the top. Well, we have him for another hour, but this segment is done at the top of the hour. Lance, you mentioned the connection to the Star People, to Bigfoot and other indigenous legends that are out there. You know, the First Nations people I just have discussed this with, and I'm very gracious for it. They seem to be very wary about who they share these stories with. Why do you think you were chosen to share the stories rather than other people?
Well, chosen's probably too kind of a word. All I can say to it is I'd wanted to do it my whole life. I just made it a mission to go do it. And sometimes when you make it your priority, they have a way of happening, okay? But I don't want that in any way, shape, or form to take away from how lucky I was and how fortunate I was to meet hundreds and hundreds of gracious people, First Nations and Native American, who believed enough in me to help me, okay? Why they chose me? Not a clue, my friend, not a clue. Maybe it was just simply that I came along and I was interested. I wanted to learn. I immersed myself as best I could with my ability and my time. I will say that I feel that I listened, and I had been trained well by these other elders and people who took me in to listen and to be seen and not heard. Okay, but here I am flapping my trap. But my point being is, I couldn't get enough of this journey, right? And so elders and people pick up on that when you're a seeker or a searcher. And when you're out there chasing this history, they pick up on it. You know, they understand that people want to learn and have a desire to pick up this knowledge. But I feel strongly in saying that the Little Bighorn was a good conduit, a good segue to show people that I had listened and was listening more, and that I came in a good way, so to speak. You know, I was not, I didn't come with an agenda, and I certainly didn't come under any pretense. I just wanted to hear what they share with me, and then it all kind of fell together, so to speak, right? So it was just a guy trying to learn history as best he could.
2 minutes to go here. As you kind of continue on this path, because it is a never-ending path, trying to shove thousands of years worth of incredible knowledge and stories and legend into so many few years that we have on this planet. Do you think that the legends are based on truth? Because many people who are in, you know, the mainstream society tend to feel that this isn't, you know, or that there are logical explanations for a lot of these stories and creatures.
I would simply answer that with that it is not only do your homework with the accounts from these people, but, you know, get out in the field, go do what I did, work some connections and try to meet some people, and then see for yourself. Because if you take that journey, it will show itself to be true. Okay? And again, I'm a living example of that. Now, I could talk to you for the next 3 hours and tell you about certain things that I've witnessed, certain things that I've been told about, and then certain things I've been told happened at this spot that I went and checked for myself. So yes, I firmly believe these myths, but they're not myths to me, they're histories. And as we continue to go down this current disclosure path across America and the United States, you know, led by people like David Grush and others, whatever you're feeling, whatever a person's feelings on there, that's, that's your journey. There's a lot of things that have been said about water, plasma, interactions with these people. And look, Dave, I never would have guessed in 100 years.
Let's hold that thought, because we're going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Lance Dorrel, author, researcher, talking about the connection of First Nations, Star People, cryptids, paranormal. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break here. We'll be right back here, guys.
Our merch is Bigfoot approved. We have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have hoodies, we have socks, we have hats, we have stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can buy Spaced Out Radio merch and look the part? Our merch ain't ugly, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Lurking within the forested region of the 108-mile ranch, where the worlds of the normal and paranormal collide. CaribouCon is waiting for you, bringing together a panel of renowned experts in the paranormal, cryptid research, and UFO phenomena fields. Get ready for a spine-tingling weekend in the heart of British Columbia. Enjoy fascinating discussions, presentations, tours of local haunted areas, and skywatching. Learn from investigators, authors, and enthusiasts who explore everything from ghost hunting techniques to sightings of Sasquatch and beyond. Whether you're a seasoned paranormal researcher or just love a good spooky story, this is your chance to connect with fellow enthusiasts in one of BC's most mysterious areas. Tickets are on sale now. Grab yours before they're gone. Visit cariboucon.com for details, tickets, and updates.
Are you ready to dive into the weird and wonderful world of cryptids, cartoons, and chaos? Meet Dirty Filth, Spaced Out Radio's resident cartoonist and master of the mysterious. Every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific, join him live on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel for Cryptid Cartoons with Dirty Filth, a hilarious hour where he sketches bizarre beasts, shares mind-bending stories, and battles his mischievous cats. Whether you're a UFO enthusiast, paranormal fan, or just love quirky art, Dirty Filth filters the universe through his unique lens, creating cartoons that capture the strange, dark, and supernatural. Follow Dirty Filth on X at Filth1 or Facebook at Dear Filth for more filthy fun. Find his link in the description below.
Spaced Out Radio wants to hear from you. We love our community, and your voice truly matters. Drop a comment after every show and let us know what you thought. Agree with our guests? Tell us why. Disagree? We want to hear that too. We read every single comment. Jump into the live chat during the broadcast and be part of the conversation in real time. Got a killer topic idea? Your suggestions help shape the show. And if you want to take it even further, join our Patreon for bonus content and direct feedback opportunities with Dave and the team. This is your show as much as it is ours. Whether you're a longtime listener or brand new, we want your thoughts, your questions, and your ideas. And let's keep building this incredible community together. Spaced Out Radio, where the conversation never ends. What are you waiting for? We're listening.
With 5 explorable Gold Rush era buildings said to be home to spirits of a time forgotten, the 108-mile heritage site in the heart of BC's Caribou region offers a unique opportunity for thrill seekers and history buffs. For an evening of historical fun, step into our guided ghost tours, where spine-chilling stories of Gold Rush legends and unexplained encounters come alive. For those craving even more, inquire with us about conducting a hands-on paranormal investigation of your own. And if you're truly brave, book our haunted sleepovers. Spend the night at our B&B inside the McNeil House to truly experience this historical landmark and its ghostly secrets firsthand. For booking or inquiries, go to haunted108.com.
All right, we are back here on Spaced Out Radio. Lance Dorrel, or Dorrel, is here. We got about 40 seconds to go before we are going to relaunch. Thank you to T-Bone for our lone super chat of the night. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who has given us a thumbs up. Now, who did I miss here? We got Scoose. How you doing, buddy? The Scouse Man is here. And who else has jumped in here? Let's take a quick look. Sensational Shelley, how are you? And here we go. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in. Our guest tonight, Lance Dorrel, author, researcher, looking into the connection that First Nations people have with the incredible species of cryptids, monsters, legends, aliens, star people, paranormal, supernatural events. It's all coming at you here momentarily. But first, we want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Varian. Varian is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in our guest. Lance Dorrel is here, author, researcher. The monsters among us, they've been told over years, centuries, millennia, that this has been going on with First Nations people. This has been a topic of discussion for many, many Indigenous who have had the stories passed down well over time. And Lance, thank you so much for being here tonight.
My pleasure, Dave. I appreciate you having me.
All right, let's get right back to it. When we talk about creatures like Bigfoot, Dogman, Little People, I know those are the big 3 that the First Nations people up here speak about, okay? That they are very much in tune with who is or what is dwelling in our forests. What did you learn about this?
Well, when you talk about these people that are called Bigfoot, you know, that's a whole different gamut of history. These are an ancient people, as I've understood it. They've been here since the beginning, and Native American people are their, as it was told to me, are their descendants and ancestors all wrapped in one. But Dave, you got to remember that these histories are over many different events, cataclysmic events. And these people are the knowledge keepers, the wisdom keepers. They're the survivors of these events, as I've been led to understand. Okay. But I'd also like to share, and that what I had been told is that these original people, these knowledge and wisdom keepers, there was also another group here that was not so good, that was put here by the star people. And they're very similar to the world that we call Bigfoot. Okay. And, I'm just listening to these stories, Dave, and I'm just like, my mind's being blown here. Okay. Because it's hard enough to grasp all this and put this history together with what's being said. And now we have another column to add to the history and to this story, right? So you've got these indigenous people, these forest people, these wisdom keepers that are here. And then you have another group that's been put here by the star people with bad intentions, okay? So that was always there. And then, of course, as you just mentioned, the little people, that has been, explained to me, but it really never came up in any histories or any things that I was so much investigating regarding the Little Bighorn and this other ancient alliance, so to speak. It just never crossed my radar. It just didn't happen.
So if they've been here since the beginning, how come do you think we haven't proven their existence?
Well, I mean, gosh, that's...
Now let me rectify that question a little bit here, because I personally have had interaction with Sasquatch before. I've seen 3 of them. I'm a firm believer that these creatures exist because I know what I saw, and the 3 that I saw with other people. And so I'm very much in tune and in belief that these creatures do exist. But for the majority of people out there, they're not sure, or they don't believe that they're out there.
Yeah, well, in this day and age, if a person is not paying attention to what's going on, to whether it's quote unquote this disclosure about, we'll say, star people coming and visiting, things they've left behind, our government's covering it up, not being honest with us. If they're not following that, that's one thing. If they're not following this history that you and I are talking about the history of the people that were here, that's another thing. To answer that directly, why we haven't so-called found proof, there could be any number of reasons, but these ancient people, Dave, they have these abilities that Native people, I had been led to understand that as well. And that's part of this reunification, was to enhance the abilities to do certain things that might be called supernatural, okay? What that means, I'm not 100% certain. I just, we talked about that earlier, but these ancient ones, I'm led to believe, can make themselves be seen and not be seen. That's up to them. And they have special abilities to do that. So is that why we've never, quote unquote, found one? Maybe. But I'm not so sure they haven't been found. And, maybe it's been covered up by governments and things like that. Honestly, I don't know. I just never had the time or really pushed that part of it. I had my hands full with the Little Bighorn. This other piece of it, and just trying to understand where they fit in the scheme of these histories, right? So I didn't want to press too much, Dave. I felt like I had already been very, very lucky, and I just did not want to seem, what's the word, greedy maybe?
Right.
I didn't want to seem like I wanted everything. I just wanted to learn as best I could and stay out of these ancient people's way, okay?
Right.
Because I was running around a lot of places with native people. We weren't looking for these people by any shape of the imagination, nor did I want to. But when you run around some of these places, inevitably you come across a lot of people who've had interactions with them, some good, some not so good. And then you find yourself in these same areas. And there were some strange things along the journey. And I'll just leave it at that for now. We can maybe visit with that at some other time. But I just didn't want to have any interactions with them at that time, right? And I don't have interactions with them because I don't go looking for those interactions because I have a very healthy respect for them. And I wish more people had an open mind to this. I understand it's overwhelming. I understand it can be a little scary. But on the same hand, if we understood some of these things, I have to believe, as ancient Native people have said, that our abilities to be better human beings would be enhanced greatly. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means, for one, we would not discard human beings or animals, okay? Because Native people, they never had orphans, Dave, right? And when they were on the hunt for food, they believed that those animals that they subsisted on, they had to release their spirits because they were living entities, right? And if we could get back to some of those ways, the rest of us may see things in a much better light, and we may treat our fellow human and animals in a much better light as well, right? So that's what we're trying to bring out on some of this information that's shared to us.
What about the star people? I remember talking to one of the elders from our local First Nation here about Bigfoot one day. And I asked him, I said, do you guys have a lot of Bigfoot interaction? He goes, no, not much. He goes, I just wish the damn star people would leave our people alone. I mean, this seems very, it felt like it was very tragic what he was saying, that, their people would be taken and then they would be dropped off in places that may not be the safest. Instead of, like, they were taken from their home, they may be dropped off in the middle of a street in the middle of winter time, where up here temperatures could get to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is minus 40 Celsius.
Dave, you hit the nail on the head. That's the hidden part of all this, that even those that are fanatic about this history down here in the States, they don't want to go there. They don't want to go to abductions. But it needs to be addressed. Okay? And, Dave, for somebody to go through that abduction thing, I can't imagine what that must be like. And then to not only have that shock ontologically, but to be stigmatized, right? But to go along with what you said, yes, the star people interaction can be not so good. Again, I'll go back to this area around Devil's Tower. It was a good interaction with the Creator and those people, his entities, but there was clearly an underlying tone. This was a cosmic battlefield, so to speak, a chessboard. Think of this Earth as a chessboard. Whether there's been seedings here, I'm not for certain, but the interactions with these star people has not been good for many parties for a long, long time. And, you know, there's a lot of history in these ceremonies with these star people that, frankly, it's not a bridge too far for open-minded people to accept and learn from. But if you won't open your mind to it, you're just going to turn it off. And that's the mistake. Dave, I've been lucky to catch some stories up around northern Montana. Okay. And some of these stories from the indigenous folks up there, and these are Blackfoot communities, they talk about interactions with star people, and that these star people actually look exactly like Native people. And I had never caught that before until just a few years back, right? I never heard that. And when you go through a lot of this history, there seems to be a lot of interactions in the area of Western Montana, Eastern Washington, Oregon, Northern California, and across Northern Montana. What does that mean? I don't know. What does it signify? I don't know. But it just seems that those people had a lot of interactions with those star people. Is it the same groups? Who knows at this point? I mean, you know, I'm just one guy. I do the best I can to keep up with contacts and chase this as best I can. But it's almost a full-time job. But I will say that, you know, Native people and First Nations people are wanting to visit with people about it, just like they shared with you, in hopes that possibly there's better interactions with their future generations and these people, right?
Right.
Because there is a lot of dark history to this. And sadly, as you know, there's been a lot of Native people that have gone missing for a number of years in the United States and in Canada that have just disappeared without a trace. Now, we know that many of those poor people fell victim to predators, the two-legged kind, and bad decisions, bad lifestyles, sure. But some of these people just disappeared, just like the stories that David Paulides has brought out. And there's just a lot of similarities, right? There's a lot of things. And, you know, whether a person's listening to David Paulides or not, again, that's their journey. But to me, there's a lot of merit in that information that guy's brought out about looking up, right?
Oh, I would agree with you 100% on that. I mean, there are cases all over and that people have just vanished or disappeared without good reason. You know, I talked to one First Nations lady a number of years ago, this is going back probably 15, 16 years ago now. And she was telling me she had her sister go missing on the Highway of Tears, or her cousin, pardon me. Right. But they were very close, like sisters. And she was telling me that many of the First Nations communities have actually said, look, we know that there are predators out there preying on our women. We know that. We know that foul play is involved. However, many First Nations people believe that maybe 20 to 30% of those women that have gone missing, and this is a very touchy subject, so I say this as somebody who told me, this is secondhand information, but this person told me that, and I've talked to a couple more people about this as well, that they believe that many of these women who went missing were taken as Sasquatch wives or taken by the Star people. And the ones that were taken by the Sasquatch wives all had something in common. They were either on their cycle, they were within a year of giving birth, like after giving birth, pardon me, or they were just finishing their cycle.
Mm.
And
Wow.
and this was something that I'd never heard about before, and yet they were adamant. These people were adamant that they believe that there is something to this.
Wow. This is you're getting into a whole nother ball of wax here. I've picked up and heard similar things quietly. This is a real deal. It's it's a heavy thing to hear, and it's a heavy thing for these people still to discuss that live out in these very remote areas, as you know. Are these things intertwined? They could be, they might be, or they may not be in certain incidences. Dave, you may or may not know this, and I can't remember the exact year or even the decade that this happened, but I think if you go onto YouTube, it may have been the late 70s, there was a community in South Dakota that was said to have been terrorized by what is called, what we're talking about as Bigfoot. And I can't remember if that was on Pine Ridge or if that was on Cheyenne River. And I think it was, well, I don't know. I don't want to say, but they even had, I think, the news people from Rapid City over there investigating this and looking for tracks and talking about these interactions. Okay. And it may have been in the early 80s or late 70s. I don't know. But the reason I'm bringing that up to you is, and what you just said is, when I was on this trail and visiting with these elders and all kinds of things, I was on a certain reservation, visiting with many, many elders in an area where there's a lot of history with the United States government, and it's not good interactions for the Native people and the government. And I don't want to be specific where this area is or what state, but I stumbled into this, and it had to do with these certain little hamlets that were on the reservation. And I was told at one time that over a period of almost a year, and I'm being very specific with my wording here, these little hamlets, communities, were terrorized by aliens. And I mean, I'm just like, holy mackerel. Here I am out there driving at night, trying to, get back to where I was staying or with the families that I'm staying. And I'm thinking, what are we doing out here? And I was never by myself. I was always with a lot of Native people, but it really gets you thinking. And, I was like, what is going on here? And what I had been told is that these communities were terrorized by these aliens. I couldn't get any further with that other than there seemed to be a great deal of tragedy amongst the youngsters on the reses, dying of strange deaths. Many of them were said to be because of drugs or alcoholism. And some of these youngsters had gone disappeared. And I'm just, I'm just sitting here trying to grasp this, And so eventually I was able to ask some questions. And I said, well, what happened? Is this still going on? Well, what I was told is that these medicinal people, these holy people, these medicine men, and the communities still had them. And I think this was taking place in the late 80s, early 90s. They banded together and came to this area and drove out these aliens. Okay. And, you're just listening to that. You're trying to take that in. Now, here's what I can tell you what I know about that later on is that these communities that I'm telling you about, these are the people whose descendants would have been part of this ancient alliance. And these are people who are the descendants of those who fought at the Little Bighorn. Okay? That's all I can tell you, friends. I don't know anymore. But it was a very tragic and dark place, this area, and it still is. Okay? And whenever you travel through that area, you feel very foreboding, and there's a great sense.
Hold that
sadness.
thought. We're gonna go to break here. We have Lance Dorrel for another 30 minutes.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Lance, we're clear.
All right, buddy.
All right. Let's see here. Carrie Doyle, how you doing? And who else came in here?
Oh, what was that person's name you just said?
Carrie Doyle.
How do you spell the last name?
Doyle.
Oh, okay. I have a younger cousin very dear to me whose name is Carrie. We call her KK, but of course she's married. I don't know if you were saying Dorrel there.
Yeah. Nope. All right. Resist. How you doing? Let's see here. Anonymous Void. Yes, Bigfoot is real. We know. We're there with you, man. We're there with you. Oh. All right. We'll get some audience questions here coming up too there, Lance.
All right, buddy. Just fire away. I'll do my best to answer them and take them to where I can. I mean, I never discuss this stuff publicly like this, so I'm doing the best I can, man. Sometimes it feels like I'm kind of being choppy with my answers, and I'm not trying to be. I'm just trying to. Sometimes it's even hard for me to articulate what happened all these years, because it's like sometimes I don't even believe it in it. It's just like I just wake up sometimes and wonder what happened here, or how did this happen to me? And it's just like, I mean, it's sometimes it's a hard journey because you feel like you're alone a lot. And it's like, it's hard to come back to the world again and then explain this to people. I hope that makes sense.
Sure does.
The price we pay. You sometimes we think we can go on this journey unscathed because we love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been warned about this, and I did not listen to those warnings well enough. And there was one of those old Cheyennes that took me in. There was 4 of them. He's no longer with us. His name was Leroy Whiteman.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived right in Lame Deer on the res, right across from the cemetery. And he told me that you're going to get lightning in your bones. And he said it would be very hard for me to let go. And it would be a very tough journey at times to make sense of all these things. And when you get that lightning in your bones, he said, the rest of the world doesn't have it. And he was talking about, I guess probably just what we're just talking about right here in this tonight. It's hard to articulate those things and to come back and I don't know, carry on like it's normal, right? Or carry on like you didn't hear these things or see these things, and just the price you pay, man. Just the price we pay.
Very true. We got about a minute to go here. How does Anonymous Void, how do you get when I tell you that we believe in Bigfoot around here that you get, okay, so you think he's fake. Got it. I've seen 3 of the bloody things. I go out looking for them every weekend. I love it when people assume. I love it when people come into my chat room, never been here before, and put words in my mouth. Apparently, people, I do not believe in Bigfoot. Imagine that. I'm officially going on record that I do not believe in Bigfoot. I'm teasing.
Dave, that might just be somebody simply listening for their own purposes, or somebody muddying the waters on purpose. You know.
Here we go, my friend. We're into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We're taking your mind away from everything going on in the world so that way you can enjoy the amazing woo with us. Tonight, our guest is Lance Dorrel. He's an author and a researcher into First Nations legends, stories, cryptid encounters, UFO encounters, spiritual encounters. We are going to get into that right now. I'm going to take some audience questions from our chat room for you, Lance, and thank you for being here. We've really enjoyed this.
No worries. I'm glad to do it.
Nicole is asking, considering you're from Missouri, what are your thoughts on Congressman Eric Burleson being a UFO advocate?
I'm applauding him. I support him 100%, and I hope he has the strength and the fortitude to see this thing through. I do worry about the congressman's health on his journey, and I hope he's able to get out of this thing unscathed. So keep going, and it's always good to have a fellow Missourian in the fight, so to speak. And Teller, thanks for the question.
Well, I want to continue that for a minute because I think that brings in another 1 or 2 questions that I have about Eric Burleson. I mean, as somebody who is pushing towards UFO disclosure, or in his case, UAP disclosure, we like to actually, separate the 2 terms because they are 2 absolutely different subjects. But the question that I have for you regarding this is, the way he has tackled it, do you think that he will have, with his group, the authority at one point to finally get to the bottom of this story? Or do you think that he is pushing the limits on so much government secrecy that he'll never get the door open?
It's a slippery slope those guys are in the Burchett and the likes of those guys. And obviously there's been a lot of stuff last week with some back and forth banter amongst the ranks, which isn't good, between that Luis Elizondo,
yes,
and one of these other researchers. I forgot the guy's name. I think he goes by UFO Gerb.
Yes.
And that's not good. That's not good for the cause. But to answer your question directly, I don't know if they can get the answers that they're looking for, because this stuff, as I understand it, from just reading and reading, I don't know anything. I don't visit with any of these people. I understand our government's precarious situation in the 1940s, if this is true, that this information, technology, and other things were popping up into our laps, and later on in out west in Utah and Nevada, as I've understood this stuff to come about, okay? I understand why they had to be careful with it. I also understand America was much different in 1947 than it is now, right? So, but we need to be able to make up our own minds to be free thinkers. We deserve that right as people, because this country, as well as your country, has paid a heavy price for a lot of these things to keep these secrets safe. And there's been a lot of men and women who have been in the service of both governments that as I understand it, who have known about these things and have taken these things to, their graves, so to speak. So do I think it'll get brought out? I do. Is it going to be enough to satisfy everybody in the quote unquote disclosure movement? Of course not. But we need to be able to make up our own minds and be learned people and be able to make up our own minds, right? That's how I see it. So I applaud all of them for sticking their necks out, and I hope they get some protection.
All right, next question from War Eagle here. When did Garvard tell you all of your information?
So that started, oh man. Gosh, I don't remember the exact date. Garvard passed away, and his anniversary when he passed is actually coming up later in this month. But if I remember right, that's somewhere around 216, 218, and it carried on until he made his journey. Somewhere in that range. Garvard at that time was living in Rapid City, and he was suffering. He was in bad health, and he had to do dialysis every other day. And so we could travel for a day, and then had to get him back to Rapid City so he could get rested up and go to dialysis, bless his heart, the next day. But not a day goes by that I don't think of that great man and what he shared with me.
All right, moving on. Hillbilly Herb is asking, would love to know more if you've learned about the Nana Bozo. He's an active trickster in the woods around my camp, he says. So I believe Hillbilly Herb lives in Ontario, somewhere around there. And have you heard about a lot of these trickster type creatures?
Sure. Many different tribes, I'll just stick with Siouan and Algonquin, have a trickster element. I mean, the Siouan people called the trickster Ikatomi, the spider. So again, Nanabozo or Mishambo has a trickster element to it. How to explain that? I have no clue. Is it a spirit being? Is it a quote unquote alien? Is the interaction good or bad? Take your pick. To answer her, what's that gentleman's name? Hillbilly Herb?
Yes.
To try to answer his question specifically, yeah, this whole thing with Nanabozo, Mishambo, the trickster, is a whole story that goes back to this area around Devil's Tower, because Siouan people, I believe, pick up this piece of this story, and they called him Maston Tatonka, the Great Peace Hare. Peace Hare, Hare. And so you see there's some overlap. There's connection between two distinct speaking groups of people, Siouan speakers and Algonquins. So while I can't give Hillbilly Herb an exact answer, I'm just trying to give him some context to what's been shared to me. I wish I had a better answer for him.
All right, I'm going to ask you the most important question of the night, probably the most important question of your career regarding this. All right. Devil's Tower. Are you on Team Stump or Team Rock?
You know, that's something that we banter around quite a bit, this group of elders. We've gone there a few times together, camped there. they've had some ceremonies. We've had some meetings. We look at the historical record based on combing through copious documents that probably have not been seen in many, many years. Cheyenne people, Iowa, Arapaho, Blackfoot, of course, Siouan people, Lakota. There's a variation of a lot of different pieces, but it's a lot of same pieces, as you know. I mean, look. Let me share this with you. I had been told that there's an intricate cave system in the western United States area, all the way from the Missouri River between my neck of the woods, northwest Missouri, between Nebraska, Iowa, to western Nebraska, through South Dakota, all the way to Wind Cave, up to Bear Butte, which is outside of Sturgis, South Dakota, all the way over to Devil's Tower, okay? And this is a massive subalterranean cave system. Anybody's guess how far down it goes, but you got to remember these people had stories about going underground to avoid cataclysmic events. And they said that you could travel that cave system intricately and come up through these places. One of those places that they could actually come up through at one time was Devil's Tower, okay? Now, I also want to give you some context on the historical record that when I was researching this hot heavy at the University of Oklahoma archives, which you can either go there to Norman, Oklahoma, or you can access them online, there was some very specific information about Devil's Tower, and it came from Sitting Bull's nephews, One Bull and White Bull, who talked about this area being very, very significant to not only Sitting Bull, but they mentioned Crazy Horse. They mentioned other chiefs, but they said that Devil's Tower was a moniker that the whites put on it because they didn't want the world to know about how significant it was to the spirits. They didn't say star people, to the spirits. And there's an area to the west of it on I-90, Dave, which runs across the United States, and you come across Sundance, Wyoming, okay? And in this documentation that was given to Walter Campbell, who also was known as Stanley Vestal, who was a very good writer on American history of the West and who taught at Oklahoma University, White Bull and One Bull talk about how Sundance, Wyoming was a misnomer to throw the white people off and to let them think that this ancient Sundance, as we know it, developed there. But in all actuality, many people have stories and said that the proverbial Plains Sundance actually developed somewhere more near Devil's Tower, okay? So again, here we're talking about an ancient alliance. We're talking about a truce called to stop a civil war on this continent. We're talking about interactions with star people. We're talking about these knowledge and wisdom keepers that the world want to call as Bigfoot. And now we're talking about the Sundance coming from this area as well. Dave, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting that's too many coincidences for some of that not to be absolutely true. I would just say, go all in on it. That's what I'll leave it at that. Go all in, Dave.
So I'm gonna mark you down as Team Stump. That's what I'm gonna do. Mark you down as Team Stump. You can be one of us.
I'm still in the middle of that. So mark me down the middle on my part of it.
One leg in the stump, one leg in the rock. Okay, we can do that.
That's fine.
Let's get to our next question here. Let's go to Carrie here. Did you ever ask Indigenous people exactly why they call them star people? Did they see them coming down from the stars in crafts, or were they dressed?
Or were they dressed?
Yes.
That's a good question from Carrie. So, Dave, there's a group of these Siouan-speaking people whose history says they fled from the stars, and then it says they fled from the Star Wars. Did George Lucas know that? Don't know. Okay? But they said they fled from the Star Wars. Now, the second part to that about dress, I can't speak to anything about that, but what I can tell you is that, again, on a certain reservation, I had 4 different elders share with me a very similar story. Again, these elders did not know that I was speaking to them at the same time, nor do I know if they would know that now. The story went a little bit like this, that, and I put this in my book, Dave, on the Little Bighorn, the history they tell. And I mentioned that in one of these chapters. I can't remember which one it was. But these people who had fought at the Little Bighorn, when they came back, were having ceremonies to honor those who sacrificed at the battle. And they were doing these ceremonies up until around the time of the Korean War. So it's 1950 to 53. But this takes place in a very remote part of this reservation. And these 4 different elders told me a very similar story about when these elders would gather in these very remote areas, and the horses were dancing and doing incredible dances, so to speak. And eventually they had visitors that some might say off planet, but maybe they've always been here. I don't know, but I did not get that. I got that they came from off planet. And what struck me about these 4 different elder stories that were all the same is that these star people came, and they were all wearing what you might say a cape with a hood, okay? And they were rather tall. That's all that was said to me. Again, I was in no situation. There was no way that I could ask too many questions about these things coming at me fast and furious, okay? At that time. I just needed to listen and listen more and be seen and not heard. I was in rarefied air, so to speak. Again, I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just trying to articulate what was going on. But those stories were all the same, Dave, about they were rather tall. They had a cape with a hood, and they seemed to be on something. Now, when I say seemed to be on something, I can only equate that or explain it as like a hoverboard or like the Silver Surfer, you know, like on a board or something. Does that make sense?
Sure.
That's all I know. But I mean, it's a hell of a story, man. I don't know, but I put a lot of stock in these 4 elders. You know, so I hope I was able to answer Carrie's question there.
No, I think you totally were. So let's get to another one here. Let's go to Acuff here. Who are the knowledge and wisdom keepers in your mind?
Well, that's what I tongue-in-cheek refer to as the older Native Americans, ONAs, which is, again, Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Those are the people that kept these ancient traditions and these histories alive through these cataclysmic events and taught people how to do things, how to hunt and how to survive off of the land, and came to Native people in ceremonies. Dave, I was told a story by a family that when this woman was growing up at the school that she went to, which was a Native American school, it was not a boarding school, it was a day school, that sometimes these Bigfoot people would show up at recess and would actually come inside the fence. When they rang the bell for the kids to line back up and come back in, or if any adults would show up, these older Native Americans, ONAs or Bigfoot, would turn into a deer and leap the fence, turn into a fox, turn into a coyote, whatever, shapeshift, and get the heck out of there. I'm just telling people what's been told to me, okay? And I'm not trying to give away any of these deep, dark secrets. These people have wanted this stuff told so their own people don't forget, because sadly their own people have forgotten a lot of these histories, right? Or they're changing them around, so to speak. I don't have a dog in the fight, okay? I'm not writing about this stuff, nor would I, okay? I simply set out to tell about what happened at the Little Bighorn. This all just came into play as I was on this journey, and here we are.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Let's get to another audience question here. We got 3 minutes to go, so this will probably be the last one for the day. What do you know about a mother passing a gene born with an extra thumb in the Sioux clan? Have you ever heard of that?
Never heard of it. I've never heard one inkling about it.
All right, let's sneak in one more then.
Okay.
Are these people that experience these events on some special bloodline or some specific ethnic group? Seems to only happen to specific people.
Never was told that. Never had that come up in conversation. There's a lot of speculation and talk about certain bloodlines of certain Native people, that only certain ones have certain things. At this point, I don't have enough research or even could articulate that. So I can't even answer that one for you. Squeeze one more in there, Dave. Come on.
Well, we're pretty much caught up right now. I'll see if I can find one more. We only got about 2 minutes to go here in the meantime and in between time. But what do you do for your research, moving forward?
Well, myself and these elders are frantically working to try to get these folks together that had been. Let me say that in a better way. Myself and these elders had been working for a number of years to bring together many of these other folks from Central and South America, these Southerners, to try to have some type of a reunification ceremony, okay? We're just trying to get them together to fulfill these wishes of these people that helped us and shared with me and these other elders this information in hopes of reuniting these people to become the medicinal people again. So that's really what I'm focused on and trying to really bring out. I'm just trying to also let the world know that what happened at the Little Bighorn is not a Native and First Nations people side of the story. Their story is much, much different than what went on there. And I hope we are able to articulate that. Myself and Donovan Taylor, a Northern Cheyenne man, we did our best to put that together in the book about what was told to us and how it compared to the historical record, okay? So many people are always contacting me and visiting about Little Bighorn. And, with that and working full time and that's about all the time I've got. I'm
not a problem.
Spread pretty thin, but in a good way. It's a good journey.
Larry, Lance, I want to say thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It was an absolute pleasure to talk with you about these topics, and we encourage all of our listeners, Lance, to go find your book and to make sure that they add it to their collection of stories. Coming up next in hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio, Swamp Dweller will kick things off. We'll follow that up with Grant Baker being here for the UFO report. It'll be a jam-packed hour 3.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Lance, that was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you to you for even considering having me. I mean, I've never gotten that stuff out before in a public forum, other than I interviewed about a week ago with Brent Raines down in Tennessee with Alternate Perceptions.
Yeah, I know Brent. Good guy.
Good man. And so thank you. Dave, I'll leave you with this. Anytime.
Stop now! You're under arrest! Hands up! Don't move!
Don't get caught without your Spaced Out Radio merchandise. We have t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, socks, hats, stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can look the part? We don't have ugly merch, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Dirty filth. Dirty filth. Dirty filth.
Object is heading north 045 degrees. It's definitely not a plane. It seems to be tethered to something. Is that a banner, Joe? Caribou Con. Does anyone know what Caribou Con is?
Caribou Con, one of the BC Caribou region's best-kept secrets. Until now. Join our panel of renowned paranormal experts for a weekend of fun and intriguing presentations. Go to cariboucon.com to book or inquire now. Discover Spaced Out Radio on all your favorite platforms. We're live every single night with the best in UFOs, cryptids, paranormal, and the unexplained. And you can find us on all your favorite platforms. Head over to Instagram for behind the scenes and daily weirdness, TikTok for quick mind-bending clips, Facebook for community discussions, and X for real-time updates and hot takes. Wherever you scroll, Spaced Out Radio is there. So go search Spaced Out Radio on every platform, hit follow, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single episode. The weird is waiting. See you there.
The McNeil House is one of several buildings at the 108-mile heritage site said to be haunted by spirits of a time long forgotten. But would you stay the night? Along with guided ghost tours and paranormal investigations, Haunted 108 is offering a chance to spend the entire night inside the historic McNeil House by booking one of our B&B style sleepovers, where you can experience the hauntings firsthand, meet the resident ghost cat, and witness unusual activity. If you dare to turn history into a night you'll never forget, book your spot now at haunted108.com. Spots are limited. Will you be brave enough?
All right, we prepare for little Granty Baker coming on in, his mustache and beard coming in fully. You got the wide stash going on today.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
nice. Very nice. You're impeccable, my friend. Absolutely impeccable. Switch hats here. Oh, you look gorgeous. We got 15 seconds. Thank you to Thomas and T-Bone times 2 for the super chats. We greatly appreciate it. Little Mikey, how you doing? PDG, how you doing? And I think we're caught up. Here we go. This is the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Varian. Varian is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. A few years ago, I had to commute for my job from about October 2018 to January of 2019. It was nothing special, a retail job, but I live in a rural area in the California foothills, and it was my only option at the time. I would be driving home every night at 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. depending on which route I would take. The highway was always deserted at these times, and some nights were more peculiar than others, but nothing so extreme as this story. It wasn't uncommon for me to see a lot of wildlife on these drives. I would just take it slow and be alert. Black-tailed deer, coyotes, raccoons. I was well accustomed to all of these animals at this point. One night, I was only about 10 minutes away from home. I rolled up to the usual four-way stop I'd stopped at hundreds of times before. It was probably around 1 a.m., not a soul around. As I came to a complete stop, I saw something standing just off the side of the road across from the intersection. It was obviously an animal, and it was headed toward the road, so I was going to wait for it to cross to continue. It took me a second to really comprehend what it was. At first, I thought it was a horse, which, although dangerous, wouldn't be that uncommon for where I live due to irresponsible ranchers and their constantly broken fences. Then, as I started to be able to make out more of what it was as it neared the light from my headlights, I realized something was very wrong with this animal. It was tall, So much so the legs looked like stilt-like. As I sat there, shocked, it slowly stepped into the road and came across my car's direct beam of my headlight. At this point, I realized two things. One, it was taller than my car. And two, its gait was very odd, almost like it didn't know how to properly walk as a deer should. It was like all of its joints wanted to bend the wrong way. It moved slowly into the oncoming lane and then swiveled its head to look back at me. All of the hair on my body rose. What spooked me the most was that this was certainly a deer, or at least something that looked like one. It looked normal in every way except the spider-like legs it was standing on. At this point, I gassed it, and the deer stood unmoving as my car sped past. I investigated my rearview mirror and caught a glimpse of it, crossing the oncoming lane back into the shoulder of the highway, illuminated red by my brake lights. When I got home, I ran to my car, got back to my house, and locked myself in, still understandably freaked out. I never saw it again, and since now I'm sending in my story to the show, I was hoping that others may have seen this weird off deer in the area.
Thank you, Swampy, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every day and night, except when you're listening to this show, because we want you to pay attention while you're listening to this show. So, with that, from the swamp to the stars, it's time for Grant Baker, the UFO Report.
Tonight, signals shining in the sky. Grant's got the stories breaking through. What hidden now comes into view. From distant light to secret clouds, mystery threats of mountain miles. Revealed, every signal slowly peeled. So tune in close, don't miss the facts. UFO facts, we've got your backs. Becomes a song.
All right, Grant Baker, it's good to have you here. Thank you for coming on in.
Thank you for having me, my friend. It's good to be back, and let's get this party started.
Well, you know what? All that talk earlier about Devil's Tower, we have recreated on our store right now. If you go to spacedoutradio.com/shop, you can go right now and get your Team Stump t-shirt. Because, you know, only those weird people think it's a giant rock. You know, only the weird people think that, you know, that was created by volcanic activity back in the day. No way, man. That is a tree stump if there's ever been a tree stump. Probably 1,000 feet tall minimum that it stood back in the day before, you know, Paul Bunyan came and knocked it down. Okay, so go to our website, spacedoutradio.com/shop, and make sure you get your Team Stump t-shirt today. Maybe we'll even make a hat of that. That would be kind of cool.
Yes.
That would be kind of cool. I'll tell you, man, I didn't do much this weekend. I didn't do much at all. It was a long weekend here in British Columbia because we celebrate British Columbia Day. Ask me how old British Columbia is. I don't know, but I will take I'll take the day off.
Well, happy British Columbia Day.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, British Columbia is 155 years old. We entered Confederation in 1850. Well, let's see, 1871. 1871. So 155 years old. Happy birthday, British Columbia. You know, you piss me off, but I love you. I do. I do, you know, but it's all good. It's all great. And I'm glad that you are here with us tonight. I don't know if you heard this or not, or you've been following along. And I know in our pre-game notes, I forgot to add this one in, but I'm just going to fire it off here anyways. Apparently there might be a little bit of drama brewing, courtesy of Ross Coulthart from News Nation, regarding a little tiff between Lou Elizondo and David Grush. Have you heard about this, Grant?
Is this the one where he's talking about there's not going to be a speech going on?
No, I didn't put it in the notes.
Yeah, I did not know this one then.
Well, so this goes back to an interview just a couple of days ago where Coulthard interviewed a UFO X person named UAP Gerb. Okay. And he interviewed him for about 45 minutes, an hour, and basically really got into the fact that they believe Lou Elizondo is not being as forthright as possible. Well, Elizondo immediately the next day went on his YouTube channel and basically made a video that he was making his move from Wyoming to Washington, D.C., where he's taking up a new position. Didn't say what position it was just yet. Might have something to do with UFOs, might not. And basically said, that they were full of it. And that he basically said, that there are people stirring the pot. And the way he worded his words, it really meant really kind of sounded like he was pointing the fingers at David Grush and others for really kind of, trying to downplay his involvement, his role in everything. Now, I don't think the UFO world really needs that type of drama right now because there's so much going on, especially when you have, two people who are faces of the franchise, so to speak, kind of knocking heads over, whose UFO is bigger, right? But here's the thing, and I was talking to Nicole Sakic about this earlier today. We had this conversation, and in that conversation, or maybe it was last night, one of the two, in that conversation, kind of where we went with it was they both may be right. Why do we have to choose sides here? They both may be right, except one is on the offense and one is on the defense. It's like football. If we use football as an analogy here, okay, you're all playing under the same banner, the same team, the same logo for the same city and the same fans. But you have an offensive coach and you have a defensive coordinator, and those two may not chat very well. Offense in football never really get into the whole aspect of communicating with each other very much. And yes, pardon me, Elizondo was scolding UAP Gerb and Ross Coulthard about the information. It was Elizondo's lawyer, Ivan Hamel, who has been a guest on this show, okay, that kind of made the comments pointing that there might be a rift. So I just want to clarify that. Thank you, Nicole, in the chat room for giving me that subtle reminder in capital letters where the whole world could see it. It's like, hey, get your information right, but you're right. But here's the thing, and B Moore in our chat room says it perfectly here. Okay. No sides in the UFO stuff. Why do we got to choose sides? Why do we got to do that? What's your thoughts, Grant?
Yeah, when it comes to choosing sides, I mean, just like anything, a little bit of drama helps. You're going to have people that are on one side or the other. Lou Elizondo versus, Gerb and Ross Coulthard. There are allegations there. There's, at different platforms that they're using, and there's a little bit of pushback from Elizondo. But I mean, you're going to have that in anything, any type of any subject. It doesn't matter what you have. You're going to have a debate here and there when it comes to this stuff, and or just anything in general. But in this case, it's probably, I don't know what side I would take. And then the Ivan, the attorney, versus David Grush and Representative Eric Burleson. I kind of looked this up as you were speaking about it, and it's very interesting because there's like a debate, and it stems from David Grush's appointment as special advisor to Representative Eric Burleson, which is the Missouri representative for anybody out there, and that's on the House Task Force on the declassification of federal secrets. There is friction, according to what I'm looking at here. The legal commentators and internet analysts in the community, most notably figures like Ivan the Attorney, have been critiquing the strategic move. And here's the critique. Centers on whether Grush taking a formal congressional staff advisory role under a single politician's office helps or hinders his status as an independent, nonpartisan whistleblower. Critics argue that aligning so closely with specific political figures risks politicizing the UAP issue while placing Grush back inside bureaucratic structures. The limit is latitude to speak freely, and it goes on from there. I mean, these guys it's like a chessboard. They're making their own moves. They're doing what they think and feel that's right for their future, however they see fit, whatever jobs they're doing. But I mean, I'm just going to watch it play out. And, when the dust settles, everybody's still going to talk to each other and be okay. I mean, that's usually all that we ever see. They get in little tiffs, and then they all of a sudden start talking to each other again. And, especially when it comes to like Colehart, he's always stood up for at least the integrity, I think, when it came to Lou.
I don't
really
know. It's like the love is gone. Like it almost feels like an 80s ballad here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, I can see that completely.
So the gossip is David Grush is allegedly pushing Lou Elizondo to expose the legacy program and break his NDA, and Elizondo won't. So Burleson and Grush are apparently leaking information to both Gerb and Ross Coulthard about this. Yeah, that's where we're sitting right now.
That's a tough one. We're gonna have to watch and see how this plays out. I haven't. When it comes to this, I'm gonna have to look a little bit deeper into it, honestly, and get a little bit more grip on what the situation's actually fully entailed, and then I can report a little bit better on it. I'm more inclined to sit back and watch how this one's going to play out, and but it'll
nasty,
be all right.
Just nasty.
Well, it always is. Every time you're going to have one person saying one thing and other people trying to knock them down. Anytime there's a pedestal to be on, you have people trying to climb it and people that are trying to knock people off it.
Isn't that the truth? Totally the truth. Totally the truth. Sticking with, what's going on here with everything UFO wise. What do you got for us?
Oh, we got a big one.
Don't excite me. Don't excite me like that.
Well, I mean, just going through it, there's a breakdown that I got, and it's from the Black Grove Global Risk.com. And this is pretty breaking news. Arrow is sole sourcing a UFO data subscription for National UFO Historical Record Centers, one that their own website says does not exist. Washington headquarters services intends to award a 5-year contract for digital access to a private archive whose materials are not digitized. On 31 July, the Washington headquarters service posted a notice of intent to award a sole source, firm fixed price contract to the National UFO Historical Record Center of Rio Rancho, New Mexico, for a multi-year subscription giving the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, also known as ARROW, digital access to the archive's pre-1990 case data, metadata, and analytical products. The structure is 1 base year plus 4 one-year options. No dollar value is published. The notice solicitation numbers, which is a New Fork number, cites 10 USC as implemented by another set of numbers, only one responsible source. It states that the vendor holds records that exist exclusively within its archives and are not available in any other public or private repository. And that market research identified no other organizations able to meet the government's minimum needs. It specifies that the acquisition is not for professional labor or advisory services, and describes the object of the purchase as a pre-existing proprietary commercial data subscription. That last phrase is the problem. The vendor's public materials do not describe a data subscription, they describe a building. Access is another matter. The organization's website offers 2 routes in: a general interest open house on the last Saturday of each month between noon and 4 p.m., and an appointed scheduler for researchers, scientists, and academics. There is no database, no login, no catalog, no application programming interface, and no published finding aid. The site's own statement of its access plan reads, efforts are underway to secure much needed funding for this effort, whereby materials can be accessed via cloud-based options. That is written in the present tense as an objective being fundraised for. The first item on the organization's donation page is digitization of materials. In a June 2024 interview, Marler described digitization as an ambition, and he quoted, "We want to get actively involved in digitizing the material to make it available to researchers worldwide." A volunteer-scale nonprofit operating out of school portable, still raising money to digitize its collection, is therefore being sole sourced to supply the Pentagon with pre-existing commercial digital subscriptions. That is a question. Why the wording matters. The commercial item framing is not decoration. Calling the requirement a data subscription rather than a service keeps it clear of FAR Part 34 or 37 advisory and assistance review, avoids personal services and organizational conflict analysis, and supports the finding that competition is unavailable. Calling it pre-existing is what makes it a purchase rather than development. Remove the word and the government is paying a nonprofit to build a capability it does not yet have, which is the shape of a grant, and grants are competed through announcements that take months rather than an afternoon. The context the Arrow does not mention. So Arrow published volume 1 of its congressionally mandated historical record report in March of 24, concluding that it had found no evidence of extraterrestrial technology and no verifiable program concealment. In volume 2, required by section 6802 of the FY23 National Defense Authorization Act, has not appeared. The office is now committing to 5 years of access to a body of pre-1990 material it did not previously hold, while its own records release channel produces nothing. No fifth pursuit tranche in 22 days, no instrument behind the NDA waiver on day 11. Both positions can be held honestly. An office can conclude the record shows nothing and still wants to read the rest of it. What sits less comfortably is the open structure. Documents are brought or bought once for, there's 4 option years running to the FY 2031 imply a recurring relationship with an outside archive across 2 more administrations, which is a resounding decision rather than a researched one. Then you have the Black Grove assessment. We assess this as a grant structured as a purchase, and that the irregularity is more likely bureaucratic than concealing. The ordinary explanation is available and has not been displaced. A program office wants the NICAP, APRO, and CUFOS files. The discovers the only route runs through one nonprofit in New Mexico, and a contracting officer reaches for the fastest instrument on the shelf. Federal agencies buy commercial data subscriptions constantly, and 1 base year plus 4 options is a boiler point for one. On that reading, the deficits in the justification are the residue of speed, not of intent. And there is much more to this.
That sounds a little crazy. It sounds like we're listening to this in real time.
Well, when a Pentagon office uses like precise bureaucratic legal code to buy something that physically does not exist yet, you aren't just looking at red tape. You're looking at a standard government sleight of hand, which is exactly what's going on here. And I had breaking this down so I can come back to it here in a little bit, but I got a pretty good breakdown on this for when we return. and there's even monetary values in there that I can pull as well, which will be a lot quicker for me to go through.
Well, let's plan on that here because we kind of like it when you're on. Grant Baker, he is the man, the myth, and the UFO legend behind the UFO report. What's hot, what's not, we'll get to it next.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy, we're clear.
Okay. Oh, that's such a long article. My breakdown on it's a lot shorter.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah. Oh, it's the glitch in the matrix, my man. Play the guitar. Yeah.
Play guitar, make me happy.
I don't know if any of them down here are in tune, actually.
How many more you got?
Oh, I got probably another. I got so many guitars. I at least have another 5 or 6 upstairs right now. Let's see what this one sounds like. It's out of tune. There you go. Or start to Blackbird. Let's go. For a cheap little Yamaha, that's not bad. That's my 8-year-old's guitar.
Excuse me. I apologize.
I've been playing since I was 15 years old, so there's 30 years of playing behind me.
I tried to learn a few years ago. I just could not get it. Could not get my fingers to move the way I wanted them to.
I cannot read a note. Everything I play it. So if you say, hey, do you know this song? I say, let me listen to it. And then give me 5 minutes and I got it. Like everything I do is by ear. Makes for a great time at a bar, I'll tell you what. Someone walks in with a guitar and I pick it up. Yeah. Usually I don't remember the ending of those nights.
Right?
Yeah. And dude, I don't have any water.
How come you? You got 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
Let me see what's in the fridge down here. It's probably just beer, but I want water. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I got water going here too. I got water. I got water. I do. It's like that. Much more. That's probably it right there. Looks good.
No water.
Water? Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Has water in it. We'll just call that good.
Gotcha. Works for me, man.
Somewhere in there. Debaroni, the Sacramento treat. How many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop, huh?
30 seconds. Thank you to T-Bone with a hat trick. Thank you to Thomas for the super chats. We greatly appreciate your love and support, everybody. We do. That's how we roll it around here in the Shire. All right, 10 seconds, my man. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Let's kick it right off with Grant Baker with the UFO report. Grant just read a really interesting article regarding Arrow and gathering their UFO files and everything. Break it on down for us, and then give us your opinion.
So I call this a glitch in the matrix. The non-existent, and this is a quote, digital subscription. Come on. So the official narrative of what the Pentagon's actually saying, or the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, also known as ARROW, via Washington Headquarters Services, which is WHS, they want a 5-year pre-existing proprietary commercial data subscription for the pre-1990 UFO records. The reality, though, is the vendor, the National UFO Historic Records Center, also called NUFORC, in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, is run out of converted school portables. Their website literally says they are currently begging for donations to start digitizing their paper archives. They don't have a database. They don't have an API or even a digital catalog yet. You know, if you want like a tinfoil read on it, you know, how does the Department of Defense buy a digital subscription from a volunteer-led nonprofit that doesn't have a digital subscription? I mean, they're paying them to build it. And then you have, you know, the second part of this is there's a federal acquisition logic here. And we're going to say it's commercial data and it's a bribe. Excuse me. So why frame a constructive digitization project as a commercial data subscription? Because the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or FAR, rules, and here's the rules. The procurement path, there's also requirements and obstacles, and then there's time and friction. And this is how it breaks down. So the procurement path is federal grant. Then your requirements and obstacles is they got to open competition, public announcement, long application windows, and overview oversight reviews. That takes about 6 to 12 months minimum. Then there's a different way they can get it, which is advisory or labor contracts. The FAR Part 37 review, personal service checks, organizational conflict of interest audits. That's the requirements. This is something when there's friction is because it's high scrutiny and heavy reporting. And then you have the commercial data subscription, which is a sole source, or if you want to look at the requirements, it's a sole source justification under the FAR 6.302-1, and only one responsible source. And this is the one that supposedly is done in an afternoon. So by calling it a pre-existing commercial product, Arrow bypasses months of grant, competition and public oversight. They're essentially handing NUFORC a federal piggy bank to build a digital archive under the guise of just buying a software license.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, David Marler is doing a great job down there, and he just added Cheryl Costa to his team.
Really?
In order to help with the files and much, much more work that is going on there. And knowing that he is independent of everything and was literally thrown these files in a good way. I don't say that in a poor way or an ill way, but I mean, he's doing yeoman's work in trying to put this all together for public consumption. So I can't see him, kind of walking backwards on that and saying, hey, to the government. I mean, the government already has access to it. Everybody has access to it. You have access to it. I have access to it. Okay. Everyone does. So the fact that they are using it, I find it very interesting, or wanting to use it. So, I mean, will this open up more? Well, who knows? Right?
Maybe. I would like to think that it's going to open up more to people. It just depends on the kind of money that they're going to throw at it as well. I mean, realistically, they could be lazy about it and throw 20 grand, or pull an ass on maybe 100. But if they're quietly establishing this, unclassified intelligence repository, it's got to be $500,000 or more. Give them the time, give them the bankroll, let them do it, but don't hide it. Just let us know what's going on. I mean, this is what we want. We want everybody to have this. If Arrow wants the historic like civilian UFO data so badly, they're going to have to twist the federal contract definitions into a pretzel to get it funded immediately. I mean, that's just how it is when you're up on the hill, when you're dealing with them. Everything's about word games and money. I mean, that's all it boils down to.
All right, buddy, let's move on to the next one.
All right. Ross Coulthart, speaking the truth. There is no plan for President Trump to give a major speech on UAP disclosure. Barring a massive, unexpected event, nothing is in the works. Don't buy into the hype. And this stems from a wave of online rumors and social media speculation suggesting President Trump was preparing to deliver a dedicated primetime address to disclose the truth about unidentified UAPs and non-human intelligence, basically, and UFOs. They actually, in some of the studies or some of the research, the hype is actually coming from like an administrative actions. Following executive directives pushing agencies to review and declassify government UAP files, rumors spread across social media that a major disclosure announcement was imminent. And this isn't just from anybody either. It was coming from peoples of the Senate and representatives. Exaggerated claims, media appearances, and commentary discussing presidential file reviews were amplified online into full-blown claims that a historic presidential address has already been written and scheduled. They're saying it isn't, and that everything that even people like Eric Burleson or Tim Burchett were talking about this, and that they know that he has it on his desk. Whether he's going to say anything about it within however he's going to do it, whatever type of platform he's going to use, is something we're still waiting to see.
I really believe in this one. I really believe what Ross is reporting. There may be a speech made, but there's a speech for everything that is ready to go. Okay. If a president passes away, a speech is already written for that. Changing of a few words, and obviously the ... gets filled in by the name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it's a vice president, same thing happens. If it's a prime minister, same thing happens. If there's a world tragic event, there's already a speech pre-written for whatever world leader or whatever movie star or legendary athlete or whatever. It's already done. And if not, well, they probably use something better than Chat GPT to write it up in about 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
But, it's not surprising that this speech is nowhere to be found on the agenda of actually happening. I can't see that at all taking place. And we've said that from the past. I believe Mark Christopher Lee's sources. Okay, he's taken a lot of heat over time regarding this, but the fact that the president was going to come out and give the My Fellow Americans speech, Grant, I just couldn't see that happening at all.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that one as well. It's for the president to stand up. Let's say he's in the conference room and all the reporters there, and have him make a speech about what's really going on. I can't. I don't know if that's a pill that I can swallow and believe into. And the reason why is because I believe there's other agendas going on. I think we're being strung along a little bit, especially with some of the tranches that they've dropped. But at the same time, I know he knows more than he's leading on to. Whether he's going to just capital D disclose it, that's one thing. But especially with the things that have been happening in the last few months, he knows.
Of course he knows. Why wouldn't he know?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, he's said as much. I mean, you look at some of the early on times when Barack Obama was on that fast fire, rapid fire interview and said, "Oh yeah, aliens are real." He's never seen them, and then he kind of backstepped a little bit, and then Trump gets in the doorway of a plane and they ask him about it. No, he shouldn't be telling those. Those are top secrets. He shouldn't be saying that. Now I got to get him out of trouble. He knows. Like, that's a dead giveaway.
They all know.
Yeah.
But how much do they know? That's what we need to figure out. And that's what, the whole disclosure movement is about. What do they know? Why can't they tell us? Where are the crash retrievals? Where are they hidden?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same questions each and every day for these people. And then, throw in a couple of dang gummits from Tim Burchett, and throw in a couple of tough guy talks from Eric Burleson. And there we are. We're right there back in that same situation. Has the ball moved forward? Verbally it has, but nothing else. I mean, the tranches, we're expecting tranche number 5 this Friday, because that's 3 weeks, and they seem to be on a 3-week pattern right now. Will it actually happen? Who knows? Who knows if it'll come out? We really don't know, Grant.
Well,
and that's the whole theory of it.
That's exactly it. We're not going to know. But then you have things like, one of the other topics we're going to talk about, which is still kicking the can down the road. There's, you get this where they're like, okay, there's a reality check here with disclosure. Is the president going to do it or not? Then you have next up where this is actually the memorandum. I had seen this pop up. I didn't get a chance to zoom in on the actual memorandum itself. It's, I think, only 2 pages. And this comes from Eric Burleson, https, burlesonhouse.gov. And it says, today I'm releasing preliminary implementation guidance shared by the Trump administration regarding President Trump's UAPNDA directives. If you have questions about the directive or believe it may apply to you, I encourage you to contact my office or another member of the Congress if you need assistance navigating the process. Full release and memorandum, and there's a big old long thing here. But in a world, how would I put this, where everybody already knows non-human intelligence and off-world tech, are you probably sitting in some, maybe not deep underground storage hangar, but somewhere. And, for decades, the official stance was nothing to see here, swamp gas, weather balloons, whatever you want to call it. Now the government is officially handing out flow charts and legal instructions on how people bound by classified NDAs can talk about things that officially don't exist. So we have a president that's sitting here that now we're being told is not going to have a capital D disclosure to this memorandum that's telling them how to, to implement this. And this is ridiculous. There's a directive and it formalizes a pipeline. If you're a defense contractor, military whistleblower, or government insider who signed your life away under a secrecy oath, to be quiet, about recovered craft, non-human biologics. There's now an administrative path to navigate reporting it. So which one is it? We're seeing these memorandums come out, and we're being told there's no capital D. I think if you're looking, between the letters, between the lines, reading what's not being said, but what's being done, there's a call to action here. And I think that speaks louder than words. And Eric Burleson's talking about it. He's basically putting out an open beacon. And this is a quote from him. It says, look, if you're holding on to classified secrets about what actually is flying around in our airspace or parked underground, and you're terrified of breaking your NDA, call my office. We'll help you walk through the official channels so you don't get, quote unquote, disappeared or buried under a federal prison sentence.
Here's the thing with this, okay? And we can discuss this here for hours. Why would anybody want to take him up on that offer? There's no financial benefit. No. You have everything to lose. Your credibility, your friends, your work teammates. You're not allowed to go public. You're only allowed to talk behind closed doors. Eventually, there will be pressure. People will come after you. And especially if you're somebody who, say, your age, Grant, you're in your 40s, I'm in my 50s, okay, that wants to talk about this and goes for it. Well, what are the ramifications that they're not telling you? Right? It's easy for any government to say, hey, don't worry, it's going to be okay. Just come chat with us. It's kind of like what, when a teacher calls you into the principal's office, you're not going in to talk about good things that you're doing on your report card. This is going to the principal's office and then finding out that you did something so stupid that you're never going to get into college. These people have mortgages, they have car payments, they have university to pay for their children, maybe their own student loan debt, because in the U.S., some of these universities are sickeningly expensive.
Yeah.
All right. Nobody should have to pay $100,000 plus unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Oh,
but to get like political science degree and it costs you like $140,000 to become a barista.
I know exactly what a pharmacist costs. I'll tell you that much.
Right. But and that's not to pick on anybody, but the universities are making bank. Let's just be honest. They're making big time bank on all of this. But you're not going to risk all of that potential employment. Let's say, even though you're retired from the government, but you might want to work in the civilian side of everything as a contractor. Mm-hmm. Now you're labeled as a guy who can't be trusted because you're giving up government secrets, even if it is to your own government. Many companies may look at that as you being a traitor because you went against your NDA that you signed. I'm not taking the chance if I'm in that position. Like a lot of people have said to me point blank, if you find a Bigfoot in the forest, would you report it? Hell no. Hell no, I wouldn't. And that's my job as a journalist to do that. But I wouldn't report it because I know that it would cost me more than what it would be worth. There's so many examples of that, Grant.
Yes, there is.
Go into the Bigfoot world for a second and look at Patterson and Gimlin. Yeah. They never made a dime off of the famous Sasquatch footage from Bluff Creek. And to this day, at 90 some years old, Gimlin is still called a liar, a cheat, a thief, and still threatened because of a Bigfoot video they filmed. Now, UFOs right now are a little bit more important than Bigfoot. Let's just be honest. No offense to all the Bigfoot people out there, but UFOs are more important. Are you really going to take that heat? Are you going to put your job, your livelihood, and everything on the line for your own ego to say, hey, I'm going to whistleblow? I had a sighting, you know, when I was with the U.S. Air Force in 1997. I had a sighting, went out for a smoke break after, you know, sweeping up floors in the hangars. Had a sighting during my cigarette break, because that's the kind of whistleblowers we're getting.
Yes, that's exactly.
We're not getting the pertinent information whistleblowers. So in reality, what is the benefit of all this? That's what I can't figure out. What is the benefit of it all? And I don't see any benefit on behalf of the whistleblowers and on behalf of the people who are not allowed to talk publicly, even though they're allowed to whistleblow. They're not allowed to talk publicly. Goes against the grain of everything a whistleblower is. I don't know. It just adds to the confusion, Grant. Maybe I'm delusional here. Maybe I have disclosure delusion or UFO fatigue.
Yeah.
You tell me.
No, I'm right there with you, my man. I don't understand it as well. When you sign those NDAs, and especially the people that have been in there long enough to where they have access to the information or even access to the physical craft, wreckage, you know, biologics, whatever, those people are usually held in high regard. They're not there because they are ever where the companies that they work for, or the people or the positions that they're in. They're not there because others think that they're going to go and tell. Yeah, they're usually solid individuals, know how to keep their mouths shut, are very, you know, keep everything close to the chest. I don't see a lot of those people coming out and saying, "Oh, this is what's really going on." You know, the Browns and Grush. Grush was one of the funnest ones to listen to, though.
Well, there's going to be a lot more coming out in the next little bit, and expect a tranche to fall on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Will it have any impact whatsoever? No, it won't. It won't. Unless, who knows? You know, I remember just a few short weeks ago, Grant, I was very excited about these. You know, now, not so much. Now, I just want to just see how I can slam NASA more. That's my whole goal right there. Hopefully there's something from NASA. Grant, great job on the UFO report tonight. As we say hello, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Oh, excuse me. Oh, my goodness, Deboruni. Look at you.
We come as a package deal, by the way. Just let you know.
Oh, my. ahead.
Dave and I are close like that. I think your reaction was the best, though.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, my goodness, Deborah, you damn near broke me on that one.
Oh, she already says I broke Davey on that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you did. I will be on with Walter M. Sterling here in just a couple of minutes on the other side of midnight. Hey, Gurjot, welcome to SOR Chat, my man. How you doing? Hope you're having a good night. We're here 5 days a week, soon to be 7. And tomorrow night on the show, Christian McLeod will be here. Yeah, the Cryptid Gee will be here with us. And there's New York. Thank you to T-Bone for the... Yep, I'm just finishing my show. Hold on. Thank you to T-Bone for the hat trick of super chats. Thank you to Thomas Rock, and thank you to Deborah Rooney. We will see you on WABC. Make sure you guys go tune on in to the Red Apple Audio Network. I will be there in just a few moments talking some UFOs. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.